When you think about a great disaster story, the conflict seems pretty straightforward, right? It's people versus some huge catastrophic event. But today, we're going to look at the Poseidon adventure a little differently. We're going to focus on how, in a desperate fight to survive, the biggest threat isn't always the rising water or the groaning steel of the ship. Sometimes it's the person standing right next to you. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll meet Linda Rogo before all hell breaks loose. Then we'll see how her cruelty just explodes after the ship flips. We're also going to look at how the other survivors had to deal with her. And finally, we'll get to her shocking end and kind of ask, what does it all mean? So first things first, who exactly was Linda Rogo? Well, before that giant wave even showed up, the story goes out of its way to show us that she is a deeply, deeply unhappy person. It's really setting the stage for the absolute monster she's about to become when the pressure is on. Right off the bat, this is one of the very first things we hear from her. She's seasick, she's miserable, and her immediate reaction is to make a violent threat against her own husband, Mike Rogo. This isn't just someone complaining. This is a perfect little window into the abusive, blame-first dynamic that really defines her entire personality. And her backstory? Oh, it's fascinating. Linda is just eaten up by insecurity over her past. She really feels like she lowered herself by marrying a cop. And not just any cop, the guy who arrested her like 6 times. This constant paranoia and bitterness is the fuel for almost everything she says and does. And this note from the script? It's just so telling. Even when she's trying to be all sweet and charming at the captain's fancy dinner party, the script makes it clear it's just an act. That little detail about her ice-cold eyes says it all. That charm is just a paper-thin mask, and what's underneath is about to be tested in the worst way imaginable. Okay, so now we get to the moment the entire world turns upside down. When all bets are off and sheer terror takes over, Linda's true selfish nature just comes roaring to the surface, and it happens instantly. I mean, just think about that for a second. The ship has flipped over. People are dead or dying everywhere. Chaos. Her husband manages to find her in all that mess. And her first words aren't, "Oh my God, you're alive," or "Are you okay?" Nope. It's blame. Her instinct isn't connection, it's attack. And you see right away, she has zero instinct for teamwork. While Reverend Scott and the others are trying to figure out a way to escape, Linda's just complaining. The only reason she helps at all is because her husband yells at her in front of everyone, basically shaming her into it. Her survival instinct is for herself and herself alone. Now, as they start that long, dangerous climb up through the ship, the physical stress just brings out an even nastier side of her. It's this incredible parallel, really. As the survivors climb up towards hope, Linda's character just spirals down into pure viciousness. And notice who she goes after here. Nani, a young singer who is completely terrified, who just watched her brother die. She's probably the most vulnerable person in the whole group. And Linda doesn't just scream at her, she physically grabs her. It's clear she preys on the weak. And here's where it gets even uglier. Her cruelty isn't just random anger, it's targeted, it's bigoted. During a really tough part of the climb, the sweet elderly Belle Roseanne has a moment where she stumbles. And Linda? She doesn't help. She doesn't even look away. She laughs and spits out this just vile anti-Semitic slur. And this is just the perfect contrast, right? You have Linda's disgusting prejudice on one side, and then you have Belle's simple, powerful dignity on the other. Belle just refuses to sink to that level. It perfectly sets them up as total opposites, grace versus hate. So you have to wonder, how does a group of people literally fighting for their lives deal with this poison in their midst? Linda isn't just making things difficult. She's an active threat from within the group. This table lays it out perfectly. Her husband, Mike Rogo, is the classic enabler. He's always trying to calm her down, make excuses for her. Then you have Mr. Martin, the quiet guy, who is the only one who really calls her out, telling her to her face, "You are a true horror." And, of course, Belle, who, as we saw, just rises above it all with class. This, to me, is one of the most chilling details in the whole story. At one point, Linda brutally tells a grieving young woman named Susan to just shut up. And the rest of the group, they say nothing, because secretly they were relieved the crying stopped. It's this awful moment that shows how, under that much stress, the group was so worn down they were willing to be complicit in her cruelty, just for a moment's peace. Which brings us to the end, the engine room. A hellscape of fire, steam, and twisted metal. And it's here, in this chaos, that Linda's campaign of cruelty comes to a very sudden, very violent end. Her death is like a perfect storm of bad luck and bad choices. There's an explosion, the catwalk they're on breaks, but it's her own vanity that seals her fate. The script makes a point of mentioning her platform shoes. They are the reason she can't keep her footing. The very symbol of her vanity is what sends her tumbling into the fire below. And even then, in her very last second of life, as she's falling to her death, what's her final instinct? To blame her husband. She dies exactly as she lived, spitting venom and pointing the finger. It's a horrifically perfect end for her character. And then you get this. Rogo's reaction isn't relief, it's pure, gut-wrenching agony. He screams at Reverend Scott, blaming him for her death. It's a shocking moment that shows you just how tragic and codependent the relationship was. For all the abuse, he really did love her. And boom, right after Rogo's grief, you get this. As Rogo is falling apart, Mr. Martin mutters this cold, brutal judgment. It's a shocking thing to say, but it's also an honest reflection of the pain she caused. Two different men see the same death and have two completely opposite reactions to her life. In the end, the story of Linda Rogo turns the Poseidon adventure into something more than just a disaster movie. It becomes this really complex look at human nature. And it makes you ask a pretty tough question. When you are pushed to your absolute breaking point, is the real enemy the giant, impersonal disaster, or is it the personal, intentional cruelty of the person right beside you?